Hello, Ann Street family. Welcome to another day. As Easter approaches, we're working our way through the Easter narrative, the Passion narrative in Mark's Gospel. And as we do this, we're tracking the events that lead Jesus to the cross. And so today we're going to read from Mark chapter 14, verse 17 to 24. You might like to read with me. Mark says in verse 17, "When evening came, Jesus arrived with the 12. While they were reclining at the table eating, he said, 'Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me, one who is eating with me.' They were saddened, and one by one they said to him, 'Surely you don't mean me.' 'It is one of the 12,' he replied, one who dips bread into the bowl with me. The Son of Man will go just as it is written about him, but woe to the man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born.' While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, 'Take it, this is my body.' Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank from it. 'This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many,' he said to them. 'Truly I tell you, I will not drink again from the fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new in the kingdom of God.' When they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives." In this passage, Jesus gives his disciples a powerful, vivid picture of what he is about to do for them. The next day, Jesus would die in their place and give his body and blood for them, a sacrifice by which Jesus would take God's anger for sin on behalf of sinners. And so Jesus takes bread and wine as a reminder for years and for generations of what he had done. But it's an interesting question, isn't it? Why bread and wine? Why two such ordinary symbols for something that was so vivid, something that would not be easily forgotten? The disciples are about to see Jesus do the next day on the cross. Why give such ordinary symbols to remind people of such an extraordinary sight? Well, partly, Jesus chooses ordinary things because they're things that we use every day. They're a constant reminder. But the big picture here is that Jesus is drawing on the imagery of the Passover. In the Old Testament, God's people, Israel, were in slavery in Egypt. And so on the night before God rescued them from slavery in Egypt, he gave them a meal that would show them how he was going to save them the next day. And so as the angel of death visited every household in Egypt, the Israelite households killed a lamb and they put its blood on the doorpost, and every house that was covered by that blood was passed over by death. And so on the night before Jesus dies, he gives them, his disciples, a meal to remind them of how he will save them the next day. He gives his body and his blood so that anyone who is covered by that will be spared from death, will be saved from sin. And so Jesus, he asks his followers even today to continue this tradition of taking bread and wine as a reminder of what he has done. It's a sign that points us back to his death. And it's also a sign that points us to something that happens even now, that Jesus feeds and sustains us by his grace, that he feeds and strengthens us as we reflect on the cross. He feeds us by faith in our hearts. And so as we reflect on the cross, we are reminded that we are loved. As we reflect on the cross, we see that we can have confidence as we stand before God completely forgiven. As we reflect on what Jesus did for us at the cross, we see that in everything, in every way, no matter what this world throws at God, his plans prevail. No matter who betrays Jesus, as Judas did on that night, no matter the events of this world, God's loving and good plans will always continue and will always have the victory. Jesus is food for faint hearts. Jesus is drink for our thirsty souls. And so, friends, I hope this passage is an encouragement for you today as you feed on Jesus in your hearts.